Hello, astrology friends. This is Lada from astrolada.com, and I thank you so much for choosing me to lead you through the energies of 2024. This is a great honor for me. This is my biggest work every year. I put all my heart in it. I purify, cleanse, pray, research, and hopefully those horoscopes or this horoscope will be useful for you. This is the introduction to show you how to use those videos and to give you some moral directions so you are not freaked out or scared or put astrology like the end for everything, or that is the most important thing. No, we have free will. But first, how do you use this video? I always advise you, if you know your time of birth, to find out your ascendant sign, your moon, and your sun sign. Your sun sign, most of you know it. When you say I'm a Virgo, I'm a Gemini, that's your sun sign, the month you were born in. What sign was the sun in when you were born, which stays for a month. But you see, everyone in the same month is the same sign like you. Your moon sign and the sun sign is a lot more to do with free will. So looking at your horoscope from the sun sign will give you an idea about the things you actually want, your free will, what your spirit wants, and how the more rational approach, and also a lot about career. In the ancient past times, astrologers never looked at the sun sign when looking at the horoscope from the sun sign, because the sun was the father only and God. But nowadays, more and more, we have free will and we make our own decisions, especially in the last few hundred years, the Western society as well, and the more developed, there is more free will. So the sun sign really does work. But then you have the moon sign, where the moon is in what sign it is when you were born. And the moon changes signs every 2.5 days. You can find out your moon sign. You need to know your day, place, birth, place of birth, approximate time. The moon sign horoscope feels even more personal. And it's because it changes much faster, it's more personal. It shows your personality in this lifetime. It shows how you're conditioned from past lifetimes. There's a bit less free will there. So often the events there are a bit more set in motion, more set in stone a little bit, but we always have free will. And the moon is our soul and how we emotionally react. And most especially women or more sensitive men will definitely feel the prediction from their moon sign, because many times there might be things happening to us objectively around, but if it's not affecting our moon, we're not going to experiencing it so emotionally. And whatever affects our moon, this is what becomes truly the focus. So whatever our feelings are, that's where all the energy goes. So it's so important, the moon sign. Or people who are born at night, before the sun rose or after the sun set, like I'm born, they would react very strongly to their moon sign because they're ruled by the moon. Or people born during the day, from sunrise till sunset, they would react more strongly to the sun as well. But the moon will definitely show you, especially for women and people born at night, more sensitive, intuitive people, what is the focus of the year for them. And the ascendant sign is where most astrologers look at the horoscope, because this is the most set in stone. The ascendant sign changes every 2 hours. This is very, very, so people born in the same month with you will have the same sun. In the same 2.5 days with you, the same moon. But how you'll be different from them is that every 2 hours, or sometimes every hour, the ascendant sign changes. This is what sign is on the horizon when you were born. So the ascendant sign is the most personal sign. It's the most specific for your incarnations. And it's the one that is directly related to the lessons you have to learn in this incarnation, from past lifetime connection as well. So the ancients and modern astrologers would always check first the sun, the ascendant sign or rising sign, like we call it. But you need to know your time of birth within 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes at least, correctly. Time and minute, the hour and the minute. So go to astro.com or to Astrolada. I have a birth chart calculator. Put your details, preferably if you know your time of birth, that's the best. And then go to the table below all the charts and write the sign and the degree and the minute of every sun, moon, or ascendant sign, of your sun, moon, and ascendant. And if you buy a package of videos, always start with the ascendant, give priority to it. Then if you're day born to the sun, if you're night born to the moon, or even if you're like me, born at the night, but you have a stellium, which means many planets in the same sign as your sun, that will be very potent predictions for you. But always the ascendant is the main one to look, because it's the most material results that you see. From the ascendant is definitely, because the ascendant is the physical body, the point of incarnation of the soul into the body. So it will give you the most practical material results. The moon, the most psychologically visible ones. And the sun, especially if you're born during the day, will have a few other planets in the same sign. Again, especially for what you want to see and experience and what your free will can achieve now. So write the sign. It's always like it says sun or ascendant, sun, moon. Write the sign and the degree. And then when you're watching the video of either your sun, moon, or ascendant, I will be mentioning when what I'm talking about is for the whole sign or whether for specific degrees. And every time we're giving you a PDF, on this PDF, you'll be having the degrees that will be very important for you next year. When you hear your degree mentioned, maybe I'll say Mercury will become retrograde from 15 Gemini from 15 Aries to 30 Aries. And if I say, if you are Cancer sun, well, if you're watching the video for Cancer, for example, and I mentioned from 15 till 30 degrees Cancer, Mercury will square your sun or moon or ascendant, and this is what it means. Then really pay attention for when it is and what I'm talking about. You're gonna feel that. So when you hear your specific degrees, that will be strongly felt. When I speak more generally, it will be more like the background at which your life is developing, the general background of the consciousness for this year. But when I mention specific degrees, guys, open your eyes. And sometimes one planet will affect 1 degree. For example, Uranus can affect just the last 3 degrees of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio this year, and Aquarius, while Pluto will affect just the first 2 degrees of those signs. So not everyone will be affected with specific degrees. Maybe you should be lucky, It's kind of like, no planets will be impelling you or compelling you to do something. But, so listen when I mention your specific degrees. This will be the most important thing. And now that you know how to use this video, I just want to tell you something. Don't make astrology your idol. I've been doing astrology for 20 years now. Can't explain to you how much worries and stress at the first 10, 15 years I was doing it, every time fearing a transit, every time over expecting from a good transit, fearing a bad transit. Don't. It's a waste of energy. And I try to give you both. And always when I expect something, I get surprised. I expect like this, something very different happens, again within the same energy of the planet that is activating you. So I try to explain to you the energy of each planet. Just like Pluto can be psychological transformation, it can be big release of traumatic events from the past. It can be total change of your shading of your skin and transformation, but it can be power struggles. It can be being betrayed on the lower level. I try to mention all the possibilities, but I don't want you to get fixated on the negative ones. Actually we have free will, and I've noticed it over and over, and how the planets manifest depends on your free will. And that means that, say you're starting a Pluto transit, like I said, if you know that there will be possibility for more power struggles, having more fierce existential, fight or flight responses, more dread sometimes. I tell you what is the higher vibration, so there is ways for you to channel this energy, actually to help with the cleansing and with the detoxification of the body that Pluto wants to do, and the soul and the feelings. So I give you I give you advice and remedies for everything. If you take it in your hands, if you don't get overwhelmed, even if sometimes difficult things happen, you're going to, use it to your highest ability. But you don't even need to know astrology. People intuitively know in such situations what to do, or people with good hearts, people that are more psychically in tune, people that are kind, that are connected to source. They don't need astrology. No matter what comes, why should you? Maybe astrology is more to give you direction. What are the right things to do this year? What are the things to maybe avoid? That's how you use it. Not so much as, oh, I'm going to get sick. Oh, I'm going to separate with a partner. Don't. God always has the best in mind for you. Your higher self always leads you to the best path. Usually when big dramas happen, because it's a person has taken on the wrong path. It's because a person is not making efforts. You don't have to be like a monk, live prayers and give your riches away or whatever. You need to be a decent human being. And most of the people on the planet are decent human beings who are trying every day to help those they love and those around them, to be of use to others, to be helpful to others in some way, and who are trying not to succumb to the temptation so much, And if there is even an ounce of you trying to be a little bit of a better person, a little bit not to those weak things, whether it's bad habits, whether it's to talk about others behind their back, or to, something, or to judge us. Every day when you're trying to stop from such things, it's not big efforts, it's just consistent. You're already living in an energy of self-improvement. You're being a decent, good being. And usually, all the transits, even the hardest ones, they're reworked to something really good. It's good to know when there is a more difficult period, why, and Saturn transit of things. God, I thought I'm depressed. Like I've been depressed for 2 years and I thought I'll always be like that. It's just temporary. That gives you peace of mind and hope. But always know, whatever is in the stars, God is above everything else. The sphere of the entities and the angelic hierarchies and the Christ energy is above it all. So when you have a strong connection and love, it always will work out for the best. And you can even reverse anything that is being said, anything that might happen. But of course, you reverse it by having awareness and connection by prayer with Christ or with the higher powers, and by making daily little efforts to be a better person. And the easiest ways, do little kinds of acts of kindness to others. Try to be of use to others. Try to be kind with them, to be tolerant to them. Then honestly, even the hardest transits work out for the best for you. And the good transits, they're really good. So that's it. Thank you so much. I hope let's do a little prayer to begin, to bless everyone. Thank you for everyone. And I call on the higher powers, on the Christed energy, on the angelic hierarchies, on the higher self of everyone, on their departed loved ones, to protect everyone who is here, to help them hear the information that will uplift their spirit, that will prepare them, not only prepare them, but help them realize they have free will to do the highest and most positive manifestation of whatever comes their way. Let this information that flows through those videos be directly connected to the high hierarchies and give answers to everyone involved here, so that everyone can come out after watching those videos a better human being, more optimistic, more hopeful, prepared for whatever it's come, with wisdom, with excitement, with passion, to believe in themselves more. And everyone who's been in touch with this information to improve as a human being. Amen. Let's start. Libra, rising, moon or sun 2024. Libras, I always start with the most important influences, which will be like a backdrop for the year, where the most vivid lessons, where the most important soul lessons will be happening, which is always the position of Saturn, and the position of Jupiter. Saturn is like the tough teacher that tells you there is no time left. You have to sort this out. You have to put order. It's like a hard taskmaster sitting over you that is trying to tell you what is right to do and what is wrong, and where you quickly get repercussions for wrongful actions. And Saturn will be in your house of health, in your house of work, while Jupiter is the good teacher. Jupiter is the one that gives you blessings from above due to your previous good karma in some way, that gives you divine grace, as they call it. And Jupiter is in an 8th house, a very healing psychological house. So let's start with Saturn, the hard taskmaster. Since March 2023, Saturn entered Pisces and will stay there into 2025. So the whole 2024, it will continue to be in your 6th house. And some of you Libras have started feeling the influence of Saturn in the 6th house already. Some of you will start feeling it from this year. But what is Saturn in the 6th house? And it stays there just for 2.5 years. And it will come back again in 29 years. So it's a very, very rare opportunity. I really like it when Saturn transits the 6th house, especially from the ascendant. I've seen it very relevant. Sometimes also from the sun and the moon to a lesser degree, but you can definitely feel those lessons. And the 6th house is how, in astrology, we call it the house of illness. I know it sounds scary, but there's no better place than Saturn transiting through the house of illness, because Saturn makes us look seriously and take responsibility in that area. So you're gonna have like a inner compulsion or external compulsion in the form of some chronic illness or health problem that appears, that you have been neglecting, that you have not been taking care of, some aches and pains that appear. But this is a sign for you that now is the time to do the hard work, to actually get rid or to control better, or to find some way to manage, because Saturn is a manager, these health problems. Because the health problems of the 6th house, they're usually due to lifestyle. They're not karmic. They're not so much like due to genetics or anything like that. It's mostly due to our lifestyle. So if health problems start appearing, this is your sign. This is like it's like a lamp for you that you can do something about it to change it. And because my husband is Libra rising, I have been observing him closely. And since Saturn entered his 6th house, he's been very focused on managing his health. He's been fasting, for example. And Saturn is the planet of the ability to say no, the ability to restrict something, which you are given during that time. So one of the things is, for example, you can start fasting, or you can eliminate certain unhealthy foods with more perseverance and more dedication than at other times. You can limit certain substances, because 6th house is the house of self-medicating or any kind of medications. Some of you might eliminate certain medications they've been taking for a long time by proper management, by healthier habits that they introduce, while others can stop unhealthy self-medicating. It might be through some kind of substances usually, whether it's drinking, whether it's smoking, or anything else that, drinking, smoking marijuana or whatever. Saturn really gives you either the ability to moderate or the ability to fully remove it. I have quite a few stories of people who went through Saturn in their 6th house. I've been watching it mostly from the ascendant, because that's how I do my readings personally. But I know that also from the sun and the moon, this is a very relevant topic, that when Saturn transits the 6th house, they put their health in order. For example, my sister-in-law, when Saturn transited her 6th house, she stopped drinking full time. And she hasn't drunk. And usually the health changes that you make here, or addictions that you're able to stop, or substances that you're able to moderate or stop, whatever changes you do, this will stay with you for life, or at least for the next 27-year cycle of Saturn. So it's true, a very rare opportunity. I remember when Saturn was transiting my 6th house, Years ago, when I was 20 something, I was able to stop addiction to opiates. Yeah, I went through that. But that was the time when I got my health in my hands and I stopped such things and I started exercising and so on. But yeah, I would strongly recommend you, and you'd probably feel the urge externally or internally to start making some changes there. And it's really welcome Saturn stay in the sixth house, because for years and years, since 2011 or something, Neptune has been in your sixth house transiting on its own. And Neptune is a planet that allows everything, that is permissive, that is, you know, it's not a planet of willpower or anything. So it's easier to allow yourself to succumb either to self-medicating or to poor health habits or to indiscriminate health habits. Of course, if you're already in a very healthy state, if you're already taking care of your health well, fantastic. But even with Saturn now, Saturn is like the antipode of Neptune. While Neptune is very permissive, it's easygoing, Saturn is the hard taskmaster. Saturn is disciplined, Saturn is serious, Saturn takes responsibility. So this is exactly the same that you can do now, and it's, as I said, it's very good actually, because it will put more order in your daily habits, more ability to manage it, perseverance there. You can introduce other daily habits that become a routine for the long term, whether it's flossing, whether it's, and I've seen my husband has been constantly very interested watching videos about healthier lifestyle, about exercise, about maintaining teeth or any kind of part of the body as well. So this is something you will definitely notice, but you're not just interested in that, you're applying it, because Saturn likes concrete actions. Saturn pushes us to take responsibility and to manifest something in the tangible world. And of course, if certain chronic conditions appear, you can start looking for, ways to managing that. But at the same time, sometimes Saturn does not immediately mean it will fully remove any health conditions. It can help you control them better. It can help you manage them better, or keep them without progressing. And that's, again, a very good thing. But again, Saturn always works through some kind of either deprivation, saying no, self-restriction in some way. So you have to go through the hard work of Saturn. It's not going to be like magical overnight as well. But definitely any kind of unhealthy inclinations can start diminishing. It can be easier to control and so on. And because the sixth house also, you can, fantastic time to introduce workout or yoga or anything like that, because Saturn also rules your fifth house. Saturn is the other ruler of Aquarius, and fifth house is all kinds of sports, all kinds of even spiritual practices like yoga and so on. You can implement such very methodically towards your health routines. And for example, sports or yoga can be very, very helpful. And Saturn, you don't want to do the health change suddenly, overnight. It's kind of a gradual process. You try every day, one more day. You don't take on 10 things at the same time. Well, sometimes it's possible, but usually Saturn is small steps daily, but consistently. And if you implement even some kind of sports or some kind of healthy activities, again, don't force yourself too much. Start with little and continue building up on top. This is how Saturn works the best way. Oh, sorry. Another thing that the sixth house rules, Libra, it's employment. And it's the worldly duties that you have, duties, errands. And you can notice that when Saturn is in your sixth house, those can become more, because Saturn definitely gives more responsibilities on its own when it's in the sixth house, in the house of duties. Sometimes even a person can turn into a workaholic if you have such inclinations during that time, burning the midnight oil, or they might notice that their responsibilities at work are increasing. But that is because Saturn wants you to really streamline your work. Saturn really wants to organize, to simplify, to automate. So for some of you, this can be a process where you're, if it's your own business, if you're employed somewhere, where you're trying to work smart, because the work can increase, the duties and responsibilities, so you should find some way to simplify or automate or restructure the work environment and the work processes. It might be imposed on you from outside. For example, the company wants you to use some different methods, or the company might be doing restructuring. So you need to update some skills or learn some other ways of working, and that is where you apply the hard work of Saturn. But the ultimate result can be very much more organized, streamlined, simplified working process. And if you are self-employed, you can put this order into your own working process, into your own business. And even if you're not working, if you're a stay-at-home person, for example, you might notice that you're craving more order, more organization around you. Or somehow, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom, but you notice that your duties and responsibilities increased, and you need to put some routines around you, smarter routines, to organize your daily life. Because especially with Neptune having been in your 6th house for many years, some of you might realize that they haven't had rigorous routines. And always with routines, it's easier to get all your responsibilities and duties done than if you're just winging it, whatever comes. So again, it will put order. You might notice that you even want to clean more around, that you want to, in your house, to put more order, in your office, that you need to somehow organize, And these are good stuff to do. You might even be watching programs like about how to keep your house clean, how to sort, organize. It might be something that becomes an interest to you. And these are, again, all good stuff, because Saturn is the cleaner in astrology, and the 6th house is the house of cleaning, service. So such kind of activities might even have healing influence on you. Clean your house, organize around you. You can put a peace of mind in you. And because 6th house is also one of the houses of worries, especially worrying about mundane things. So I have to do this, that. You have a long list of things to do. And you start stressing and worrying and not being able to sleep, because Saturn is aspecting the 12th house from the 6th house, opposite of sleep. So sometimes worrying about daily things and woes, because the 6th house deals with all the, not just daily responsibilities, but things that might go wrong. You worry about everyone or everything, that things are running smoothly, about the mundane, about what work you have to do. So that can interfere with your sleep. Some of you might notice as well. And again, with Saturn in the 6th house, it's good to, talking about 6th house illness, and always my issue that is with in breathing comes up, which is with the nervous system, and my breathing kind of gets affected a bit. Sorry about that. Yes, the diaphragm, something there. Anyway, but so it's really good to set routines. Like my husband actually got himself a watch, because he noticed that his sleep is not good enough, so there's less energy and so on. So he got himself the watch that, he can track his sleep cycles. And again, it's something very Saturnian. Saturn likes to track, to inventory, to understand it piece by piece what it is. So he started watching it and realized that sleeping before 12 o'clock always gives him one of the best sleep cycles if he falls asleep before that. So he said, because we used to go to bed 1, 2 o'clock after we put the kids. And he realized, and he became very serious about getting track, and he realized how having a good sleep affects his body, any kind of gut issues he might have, or inflammation, in such a powerful way. So he said the first thing we have to fix is our sleep pattern. So now we're all in bed by 9:30, hoping that we'll fall asleep by 10:30, 11. And so very rigorous, whether we want or no. This is Saturn, you apply it. And he's been like that. Some nights I might stay later, but he just does it. So you can do something similar, whether with your sleep or with your health habits, that you're consistent with it. So this is another way you can apply this. And again, always good health, sleep is very important. You can incorporate it because both houses are involved. But talking about, going back to work, because I jumped on the topic of health again. So worries, as I said, can come up. That's why it's good to make yourself a solid routine that you'll keep probably for life after that. And there is no better time for this than now. But there is another way this transit can influence some of you, because sixth house is your... So yes, daily responsibilities, duties, and errands can increase, but also you can be definitely more reliable when it comes to such things. But if you're in the wrong career, if you're in the wrong employment, you'd notice that problems start increasing. You'd notice that the situation in the office or with the work duties and responsibilities becomes oppressive, unpleasant. You start becoming dissatisfied with that. So some of you might experience this transit in a way that they're forced or internally or externally to change employment, or to restructure somehow the employment, or to become dissatisfied with the way of the workload, so they make some changes there to handle it better. And to prioritize, another important word for Saturn is to prioritize on the most important duties that you have, whether you're a housewife, whether you're unemployed, or whether you're working in a big corporation or for yourself. You have to prioritize. If you're answering 100 emails per day when you have, and wasting time there, when you can actually simplify that by prioritizing with more important things for whatever your job is, this is what you'll start noticing, where you're wasting time in your work and in your productivity during the day, whether in your routines where you're wasteful. And Saturn does not like wastefulness. Saturn does not like spending time on... You might be working like maniac, but are you really doing the most important things for you? For someone, it might be that part of the routine is actually to do the exercises, like physical exercise first, rather than, like rush around the house doing other stuff. Or in the office, you can apply it either to your home at life if you're not working, or to your office and to your work. What is the most priority work that will give you the best results or the most important results, and you cut off the other time-wasting activities. So again, I like the elegantness that Saturn brings, especially in this house. The simpleness, and it's not an easy process recognizing those things, feeling frustrated with the increased workload or responsibilities, having to recognize what it is you have to give priority and what to eliminate. But it's part of the process, and once you apply it and by repeated efforts you learn it, you really make your life run smoother after that, like the oiling of the machine and so on. This is house of maintenance, to maintain the machine of your daily life and of your body running smoothly. And so some of you though might, even quit jobs, start a different job if you're not in the right position, if you're not in the right career place. Or if you're in the right career place, you can see that you have to work longer or harder at moments, again, till you do this restructuring. Sixth house is also your employees. Some of you, if you have employees, whether it's home help that you employ, someone to build something for you that you contractors, or whether it's you're a manager of something and there are people below you that you have to manage, you'll see again that you have to prioritize. But there might be some problems with employee, some delays, some resentment, some unset, because Saturn can carry the energy either of resentment or of dissatisfaction, of something that is not well managed, in a sense that where you see where the problems come there. So you might have to address such issues, either hire someone, or put more efforts in working through the issues with those employees. Usually, old and more experienced employees during Saturn in the sixth house is better than youthful, young, green, because then you have extra responsibilities on your shoulders. Okay, sixth house is also the house of debt in ancient astrology. And when Saturn transits there, if you have, it might be student loan or debt, it might be some kind of debt for mortgage, or it might be even a debt that you own something to someone else, not necessarily financial. Sometimes it's, having to take care of someone sick, or someone like sixth house rules anyone that is in a less auspicious situation than you. Anyone who you would consider sick or vulnerable in some way, someone on the fringes, you might see that there is some responsibilities towards such people in your life at this time. But also when it comes to your debts, Saturn there can really help you, I'd say, put more order there, maybe, start paying off a debt, for example, commit for those 2-3 years while Saturn is there to get rid of a debt, to finish a debt, for example. That's how it can play out, to structure, minimize a debt. So this is also another good direction to work towards. People that are in sixth house careers, like social services that help those in need, doctors, nurses, people in the medical healing professions, people in nutrition, people in exercise or therapy professions of any sort, they can see that their responsibilities and duties increase. Actually, Saturn can really give them more authority, more experience there, albeit through increased duties. Because these are the sixth house professions. So if you're in military service, or even if you're in litigation services, because the sixth house is about dealing with conflict between others, or going in conflict areas, trying to resolve the conflict. That's why the military, sometimes police as well. So you can notice that if you're in such careers, you either take on some position of higher responsibility, or there is more duties there, more pressure on you, but also possibly more authority as well. Also, the sixth house deals with, we mentioned health, we mentioned work, we mentioned debt. I think we covered pretty much everything that Saturn is trying to do there for you. And as I remember, like someone who had Saturn in the sixth house, they worked like crazy during that time. They were a traveling nurse, and they were doing 16-hour shifts sometimes. But during that time, that really solidified they were able to get out of debt, because over the 12 months a year and a half that they worked like that, they took like double. They worked double than normal when Saturn was in their sixth house. That they became, first of all, they saved a lot of money, which is something Saturn in the sixth can also help you do. They stabilized their finances, and they were able to get out of debt, to pay off their student debt, and they were able even to put a mortgage for property and so on. And they were able to get their health in. First, though, sometimes when Saturn is in the sixth house, some health issues can intensify, or some addictive behaviors, or some self-medicating, because it allows you to see the problem and to start taking care of it gradually. But the results can be fantastic. It's not an easy position for Saturn in the sixth house. Saturn going through any house can create difficulties there for a bit. But the final result can be really beautiful. And you really need it, Libra. You actually have sixth house Pisces, which is not the sign that deals best with those very material, practical side of life that is about responsibilities, routine, structure of the sixth house, because Pisces is just the opposite of that. Pisces like, whatever comes, whatever goes. So this is a rare and beautiful opportunity to instill long-term such habits that can maintain your health and longevity for years ahead. Okay, so also with some work project, might be a good time now to really, when you're working on a project, it's usually sixth house is also behind the scenes, like the backstage as well, to really do some beautiful, solid groundwork to for some project, for something that you are definitely will be very much more preoccupied with duties and responsibilities and putting order in the material sense into your life through work, through career, through money, and so on. Okay, and Saturn is a good planet for that, you know. And Saturn, throughout most of the time, is receiving very good sextile aspect the first 5 months from Jupiter in the 8th house. So this is very beneficial. The work of Saturn can be really helped if you're working on some work project, even if it's going slower, because that's the nature of Saturn and it needs redoing over and over. Don't get frustrated if it's going slower, because Saturn wants to do things perfectly, not fast. At the same time, Jupiter will be sextiling till June Saturn from the 8th house. So it promises that there will be whatever you build there, whether you're working on your health routines, whether you're working at work, on some employment or whatever, on some project, towards some goal materially, Jupiter, the first 6 months or 5 months, really promises you that those will have long-lasting positive results, and you'll get support. You get inspiration and knowledge as well. And you can, it's because when Jupiter aspects, it gives you the inspiration, it gives you the divine support somehow, and the opportunities. You're still going slow with Saturn in the 6th house, but the results were long lasting. Saturn and Jupiter together build something really stable, and it feels good as well. And at the same time, Jupiter in the first 5 months will be situated in your 8th house. Actually, Jupiter entered the 8th sign from Libra from May 2023 and will stay there till the end of May 2024. So you have another 5 months, let's say, till Jupiter is in the 8th house. Some of you started feeling it already, some of you will feel it in the coming few months in 2024. Jupiter in the 8th house. So Jupiter is where we receive now, where opportunities come, where things happen without effort or through inspiration, so to speak, where the gates of abundance can open. And the 8th house is the house, first of all, on the material level of support from others. So even Jupiter, because it's making sextile to Saturn, others with their resources, their knowledge, can help you through health problem, for example, that you're dealing with, can help you through improving your, let's say, your health routines, can help you in your work, anything that you're doing. So someone else's resources, someone else's expertise and talents can be helping you with all those 6th house activities. But Jupiter on its own can indicate here in the 8th house that, for example, you have easier access to the resources of others. If you're trying to buy or save something, for example, your partner, if you want to buy a house or whatever, you can receive a good loan now with the 8th house resources from others, banks, and so on. Or you can increase your credit score, or you can receive, like you can, together your mutual finances as a couple can grow, or you can acquire some big asset together as a couple, whether you're a business partnership or whether you're a marriage partnership. Again, by combining your resources with those of another person, this is when you can do something bigger financially. This is where you can benefit. Or for some of it can just mean that your partner's finances improve. That, for example, they start making more money, or that they bring in something to the table, whether it's their skills or whether it's their expertise, that expands your own finances and helps you become materially more prosperous. And 8th house is also inheritance. Sometimes when Jupiter trans the 8th house, you can even receive an inheritance. I mean, that implies the passing of someone as well sometimes, but it is a possibility. It's the 8th house of death, rebirth, inheritances, and all of those things. But definitely that's a big possibility as well. To receive something from another, to receive maybe help from government, or if you're divorced, a bigger payout from a spouse, or some kind of, financial, material help arriving from outside. For me, I remember when Jupiter was transiting my 8th house from the ascendant. First of all, because 8th house is house of crisis, there might be some crisis that precedes the good things of the 8th house. Like some big ending and new beginning, for example. For me, it was a divorce. It's the house of divorce, death, such kind of stuff. A divorce happened, but I moved in with my current husband then, and our finances increased like double. Not somehow our energies meshed such a way that the business started doing better. It was really blessed period during that time. I wish it for some of you as well. And at the same time, I started including the gifts and talents and expertise of other astrologers, because the 2nd house is the talents of what the 8th house is the talents and what others can contribute to you. So translate it to your own life. But for me, it's like, instead of just me doing videos, I started interviewing other astrologers, and money started coming to me through others. So some kind of open yourself to partnerships, or open yourself to collaborating with others, or using, not in a negative way, of course, they'll benefit as well, using their resources, their talents and skills. This is where doors open. Also, if you are dealing with taxes or insurances, it can be again beneficial, whether it's your job or whether it's in your personal life you're dealing with such things. They can happen with ease. Maybe you've been expecting some money from somewhere outside of yourself for some times and it's been stuck. But now Jupiter in your 8th house it's like the green light. It will allow those resources to come to you. And with Jupiter in the 8th house, it helps you heal from especially some kind of blockages in receiving, because the 8th house is the house of receiving, being supported by others, or receiving from the universe. And many people don't trust that. Many people have problem asking for help, as you know that. And 8th house is to ask for help from others. 8th house is to trust that help will come to you from others. People who have learned to be very self-sufficient and always try and do everything on their own. Oftentimes they have some issues with trusting others, which is also another themes of the 8th house. Or trusting in the universe that will take care of them. Or trusting that they deserve. They don't believe that they deserve to receive from outside. But Jupiter here starts healing those wounds. Oftentimes they're due to abuse, of not feeling worthy enough, of having their trust betrayed by someone. And this is where the traumas are hidden in the 8th house. And Jupiter staying there truly in the 8th house really can help people start healing from those psychological situations. That the root is always psychological. If you never receive help from others, if you never... Just like I have Saturn in the 8th house, and I've always found it very hard to ask for help from others, so to receive it, or like I feel uncomfortable. And when Jupiter entered my 8th house and transited it became easier, and I started opening myself to that. That's why you can start receiving more from others. And if someone offers you help, accept it now. Or if you can go and ask and you will receive. This year it's important for that. Oh, sorry. And the 8th house is so some kind of intimacy, trust, and issues can be solved. And oftentimes, if there is some blockage of sexuality, because what is sex? It's give and receive. This is the 8th house of where you have the yin and yang. When they merge together, one is inside of the other as well. They're intertwined. The same is with our finances. The same is in relationships. That's why it's the house of sex in the 8th house, because it's the ultimate ability to allow yourself to be penetrated or by the energy of the other. And if you have any blockages there, Jupiter can heal part of it. That's why oftentimes Jupiter transiting the 8th house has been compared to tantric sex or experiencing of much deeper sexual bonding or intimacy. They call the 8th house the house of soulmates. So the connection sexually, and because it's not just sexual connection. The eighth house, just sex for the sake of sex is not eighth house matter. Eighth house matter is almost like sex that is healing, that is connection of souls, intertwining of and opening yourself to be vulnerable to another. Jupiter can help you through that. And that's when I met my husband, and that was the most beautiful healing, because I've always been a bit frigid, non-sexually interested, of course, Saturn in the eighth house. And that's when my healing started, by meeting my husband. And it's been ongoing, because Jupiter transits your eighth house just for 1 year. Don't think when it leaves, after that you close off yourself for intimacy and trusting another. And it's not only trusting another on a sexual level, it's in business partnerships and trusting another to help you. It unlocks it. It doesn't have to, when Jupiter moves out of there, for these things to stay locked. It can be giving for 18 years. Because for me, the healing started right when Jupiter was in the eighth house. I learned to trust others, to reach out to others. I learned to open myself intimately. And so some of you can experience very beautiful, intimate bonding and soulmate love even. So I wish it for all of you. Plus the eighth house is the house of conception, getting pregnant. It's the gate house where death is. That's the gate of death, and that's the gate of rebirth, and the gate of creation of life. So sometimes there might be the passing of someone, but sometimes there can be the appearance of new life. I got pregnant during Jupiter in the eighth house. You become more fertile normally around that time. So you see such kind of really life-changing events that can happen. And they're not valid just for the time Jupiter is in the eighth house, because Jupiter's cycle is 12 years. They can keep giving over the next 12 years. Since it's such a psychological house, the healing can happen spontaneously and naturally of the psychology of some trauma, of some inability to trust. But it can also, for me, happen by falling in love and by this deep connection I felt. But for others can happen spontaneously, or by learning astrology, or studying or reading about psychology, or by analyzing their deep traumas, or getting some deep insight into motivations behind certain behaviors. This is all eighth house, getting to the root of a problem, as we call it. But if you're working with a psychologist or an occultist or an astrologer, someone who is, into this eighth house things, understanding the secrets, the deep reasons behind something, believe me, this can be transformational for you. For me, I didn't even, because I constantly work with astrology, psychology, I constantly read. I didn't even have to work with someone. The insights when Jupiter was in my eighth house, they kept coming, and the healing, it was just washing away. And it's emotional healing, washing away. But at the same time, emotions trapped in us that are unprocessed, they create physical health problems as well. And Jupiter rules your sixth house of physical health problem, and it goes into the eighth house of healing and transformation and releasing a feeling. So if there is any health issues based on unprocessed trauma on you, you can have even miraculous healings now. While Saturn in the sixth house, it will help you that you maintain going and maintaining the health and the routines. But yes, Jupiter takes and that's actually forms in Vedic astrology, it's called a Viprit Yoga, destruction of the evil. Because sixth house illnesses is not the nicest thing. We call it difficult house, and the ruler of a difficult house goes in a difficult house. Eighth house is the house of destruction, illnesses, destruction, death, rebirth. So we take illness and we spin it in the eighth house of reversals and destruction. So they can be the destruction of an illness, for example. So that's great. If Jupiter rules a really good house, we don't like the destruction of something nice. For example, fifth house, the destruction of your romantic life, or big reversals there. But we like the distractions of our debts, sixth house. We like the destruction and rebirth, or hopefully not rebirth, of illnesses. So there can be something like that happens in your life. So With this Jupiter in the 8th house, powerful spiritual, psychological healings and even physical can happen. Ability to get answers to hidden things that you are, deep psychological ones that you become strongly aware of. It can be increase of your mutual finances or through others in some way. Open yourself to receiving from the universe. Ask and you'll receive, as I said. You can even benefit somehow through taxes or insurances or become very knowledgeable about such things. So and you can find Jupiter always gives you relief. So you can say get a big tax return, for example, with Jupiter, money from outside sources that you didn't expect, or from some kind of an insurance. Or through, just like I told you when I had Jupiter through the 8th house. But 8th house is also mutual pooled funds and resources, hedge funds, pension funds. If you have invested in the stock market, and the stock market is very 8th house because there are big vicissitudes, like 8th house is sudden changes, and it's connected to other people's resources. It's not just your money there. In a stock, you put hundreds or thousands people put money there. So in the same way, when Jupiter transits the 8th house, if you're involved in any way with the stock market, or if you have pension fund or some kind of investment with another person, now it can be very beneficial. My husband, for a few years, was like, why the stock's not going up? What I've invested so wisely. And now he's starting to see returns. Jupiter is transiting his 8th house in some very wise investments that he's made. Or if you've invested with something on something, now you can or in stock markets, now you can, for example, if you're lucky enough, you can even like double, triple your investment in stock markets or with another person. And you might be really interested in learning a lot about stock market, or in learning. Jupiter is knowledge. Uranus is another planet that is in the 8th house, which is also knowledge, divine wisdom. Jupiter is intuition, expansion, understanding something really well, almost on an intuitive level. So now it can be a fantastic time to study about stocks, to study about investments, to learn to find really good advice and teachers there, and to even benefit materially from that, to study about the occult, which is other 8th house matters, to study about astrology, to study about psychology, to study about the soul, to study about life after death. Some of them, I personally, when Jupiter affects the 8th house from my sun, moon, or ascendant, I start, just like currently, it's, I recently had Jupiter in the 8th again, and I was like reading about life after death. Astrology was giving me incredible insights, and any person who is in 8th house career can be very successful this year, whether you're an astrologer, whether you're a psychologist, whether you're emergency services, a surgeon, whether you are working with other people's finances or insurances or inheritances or investments in some way. Definitely this period can be one of, getting a lot of things done, getting deep knowledge and benefiting in a powerful way from this. Jupiter meets with Uranus towards the end of April in your 8th house, which is the combination for sudden big luck. It can double or triple than what it can happen normally than Jupiter can give. Being in the 8th house again, around all those areas of life, like sudden inheritance or sudden surprise pregnancy, sudden surprise healing, sudden surprise release, or sexual deep intimacy experience. 8th house is also hidden money. Somehow you can benefit from, hidden money offshore or something. You can understand. You can apply to your own life only, but I'm saying don't do anything illegal, of course. Jupiter will give you the knowledge how to do it in a legal way, how to do it by not, because Jupiter is a sattvic planet, which means it's a moral planet. You're not going to do it in an immoral way, but it will give you the knowledge, the opening, the opportunity, whether it's with taxes or all of those things, or other people's resources. And I would even play the lottery because it's a financial house. with Jupiter, when Jupiter and Uranus come together, who knows? Or they can be the sudden rise of your, sudden big change in your investments, for example. But we can be a bit rash when Jupiter and Uranus are together. We always have to use a bit of, discernment, let's say. But it's kind of almost blind luck here that people get with Jupiter and Uranus together. It's a rare combination. You can even, investing in anything that comes from under the earth, which is the 8th house, resources from under the earth, can be highly beneficial because it's happening in Taurus, so it's connected to money very likely. But the Uranus-Jupiter is the combination for astrology, occult, and esoteric knowledge, and spiritual initiations as well. Because divine and angelic wisdom, divine is Uranus wisdom, Jupiter is angelic wisdom, aligned together. Some incredible insight, downloads, 8th house rules the chakras, all the invisible or visible openings in the body, and the chakras are those. Jupiter and Uranus, for some of you, can spin the chakras, and some revelations or kind of psychic experiences or initiation experiences can happen. But again, because it's the 8th house, there is a shock to it, to all those events that can happen. They would carry a silver lining. They can be a shock, that like a divorce, bankruptcy, or something sudden happening, that it might be from the external world that directly affects you, but you benefit from it because you receive from this 8th house. You receive downloads, you receive energetic upgrades, you receive healing, as I said, and you cleanse the stale chakras and emotions. So even if it starts like a shock in some way, certain event in your life that the 8th house, Uranus and Jupiter trigger this year, it's gonna have great benefit for you down the line. Actually, for the next 12 years, almost till the next Jupiter cycle completes. So if you're in a situation of sudden reversal, extreme shock, just like I went through divorce, pregnancy, and such kind of shocking stuff, truly it has a beautiful silver lining to receive. The universe wants you to receive more from it, even if it comes in the shape of something that you think it's unwanted, but you would realize it down the line. So stay positive about it. Okay. Jupiter stays till the end of May there, and to the end of May it moves into your 9th house. While Jupiter is in the 8th house, its influence is a bit more invisible, like hidden romantic relationships, like intimacy increase and psychological transformations and so on. When it moves to the 8th house, you'd feel like you're to the 9th house from the end of May, and it will stay there a whole year till June 2025. So a whole year you're going to have Jupiter in a fantastic position because it's directly aspecting Libra. With a trine, Jupiter is in the lucky 9th house. Jupiter is the luckiest planet, the most beneficial. It's suddenly your vibration will start rising already from the beginning of June. You'd feel such a shift in energy. Psychologically, your health can start strengthening if it's your sun or moon or ascendant Jupiter holding a trine for a year. Even if you're kind of dealing with health issues with Saturn in the 6th house, you'd start taking it into control. You'll start seeing improvements when Jupiter starts making in trine. Jupiter trine to your sun, moon, or ascendant can strengthen your body, health, physical vitality as well, and protect you. Once Jupiter moves into Gemini, which is in the 9th house from Libra, you're protected for a year, definitely. And what can you, the vibration lifts, because when Jupiter is in the 8th house, they can be cathartic experiences, but they're deep, they're intense. The feelings can be more tumultuous or more hidden. And it can feel a little bit like passing through the tunnel of birth or initiation, which is always a strenuous emotionally process, even if it carries a lot of, good things down the line. But psychologically, it's a bit of a turmoil. But when it goes into the 9th house, it's like you see the bigger picture. You see Why did something suddenly change, or whatever you've passed through? And you're like on the other end of the tunnel where the light is. The eighth house is the tunnel when Jupiter transits, the big transformation, the birth canal, or the tunnel where you go from life to death. It's not death, it's even better life. But you are still like a bit in the dark, you're still spun in the tunnel and like, what's happening? I don't understand it. You feel on a deep psychological level something is happening, it's transforming, it's alchemizing in you, but you're still not able to see what's the reason for it in the bigger picture. And when Jupiter enters from the end of May, the beginning of June, your ninth house, you will have the answers. You'd be like, wow. You'd be, how do I say, it's like a blessing. It's like you're going on the other side of the tunnel and you're in the light. And the ninth house is the house of the higher self. Jupiter opens the communication with the higher self. You're going to start seeing 1, 1, 2, 2, all those symbols. I remember I started even while Jupiter was still in the eighth house through the big transformation. I was like, God, this is so much, like, help me, like a divorce, moving to a new continent, new relationships, then getting pregnant the first month. And I'm like, what is happening? It's such big life transformations. But when Jupiter entered the ninth house, it was like you get the signs all the time. You're on the right path. You've passed the test. You're initiated to some kind of a higher, lighter direction. So you're going to see how everything fits the puzzle. You're going to have like some kind of the healing. You're seeing it already from before that, but like in the Bible when it says he takes me to green pastures, he takes me through the valley of death, eighth house, to green pastures and calm waters, ninth house. You're there in the second part of the year. And you see the big picture and you become very optimistic about the future. That is the house of future, your plans and goals. You start dreaming big. So I'd advise you from the second part of the year, from June, dream big. Because definitely you can shift something in your consciousness. With Jupiter in the ninth house, I started believing in abundance because once I met my husband, Jupiter in the eighth house, suddenly we started having more abundance, but I was not used to that. I've always kind of skimped and scraped. And Jupiter in the ninth house, I had to start learning and believing that there is more for me. And I started believing, I can make more and more, not just for money. I can become bigger. I can, you can do some things that you didn't have the courage to do before because you start believing in yourself more when Jupiter is in the ninth house. Ninth house is one of the self houses, and Jupiter expands your vision of what you're capable for yourself. You trust in yourself. You're trusting that you're bigger than who you think you are. So when your belief expands, believe me, the opportunities and the manifestations expand. So you're on this journey now. First, you transform the old traumas, Jupiter in the eighth house, then you go to believe that you're bigger than you are. You can make more. You can achieve more. You're worth more, and you start attracting the right circumstances. For example, I started teaching astrology for the first time. I didn't believe I was good enough for that or I had enough knowledge till then, but Jupiter entered my ninth house and I started believing it. So I'm quite certain something that you didn't have the courage to do before, you start doing now. And it's good to start teaching or learning anything. Jupiter brings educational opportunities in the ninth house. You can start to pre-qualify or learn higher knowledge or get accepted to a really good university with a really good professor that sees you. Or you can find a course to take where even if you're not going to do a bachelor degree or whatever, you can go back to school by taking classes and courses online. I always study so intensely when Jupiter is in the ninth house. I study astrology, I study other systems. During that time, my passion, love, inspiration for knowledge grows, and you can get incredible insights from your higher mind because you connect to your higher self in the ninth house. That's why you become fantastic counselor, advisor to others because you see the bigger picture and you can lead others in the right direction, or you find the right teachers. I remember when Jupiter transited years ago, my ninth house, I found astrology, higher knowledge, something that I really loved. That for life now has become a source of opportunities and abundance, which is the ninth house, is the house of abundance, of opportunities, of purpose in meaning in life. Astrology became that. Astrology became my cosmology. In the same way, you can find something that gives you meaning and purpose for many years ahead. And then the next time Jupiter transited my ninth house was I had a baby. Baby gives a meaning and purpose in your life for many years. Or you can have a grandchild. Ninth house rules grandchildren as well. So something can appear, even you can come across the right spiritual belief or cosmology. I tend to discover the best, most inspirational teachers when Jupiter transits my ninth house. At the same time that I discovered astrology, I discovered Rudolf Steiner and Master Bean Suduno, who became and still are my spiritual teachers, even though they're long dead. But I discovered their teachings and my whole and esoteric Christianity. So for you, it can be something else, Buddhism, philosophy, it can be politics. You discover something that makes the world have sense, that gives a meaning to the universe. You definitely can become more spiritual than other times and feel more connected to God. You don't even need a specific system of knowledge, but for me, I'm this type, and for you as well as a Libra, Gemini is here. You need to understand it with your mind to oftentimes to welcome it for you into your higher mind, to understand it, not just to feel it, but to intellectually understand it, Gemini. So you can learn about different cultures now, and Jupiter not only gives fantastic opportunities to study, to expand, or to teach, but to travel as well, physically. The second part of the year can be a great time to visit countries you haven't been to, and actually opportunities can come to you by going to foreign countries. In some way, some good luck can find you there, So it opens green cards. It's easier to get to relocate to a foreign country when Jupiter is in the ninth house, or to get documents to a foreign or visas of any sorts. You have 1 year where it's like green light, or to go and live in a different country, experience it, or to exchange and interact with foreigners a lot more. And Jupiter rules your third house, goes into the ninth house. Definitely great for studying, learning your mind, and feeling more optimistic, because this is the axis of the mind, the ninth and third house. Your mind will be, as I said, you'd see omens. You can see the future. Some of you can predict the future easier, or just know and feel in their bones what's about to happen. That's the prophetic position of Jupiter in the ninth house. If you're an astrologer yourself, or counselor, advisor to others, consultant to anything, you'd be always right on the target with your projections and expectations of the future. But you start believing more in yourself, believing more in your future. You start believing more in abundance and things like you're lucky. You're at the right place at the right time when Jupiter is in the ninth house. You just feel this flow. And Jupiter in particular will especially affect those degrees from 0 to 22 degrees in Libra, because in 2024 it just reaches the 22nd degree of Gemini, which means it trines everyone who is Libra from 0 to 22 degrees. They'll get the trine from Jupiter, and actually Jupiter will come back then back to the 11th degree and will move back again, but that will be 20 when it starts moving direct further down. So especially if you're from 10, let's say, degrees to 22, 23 degrees in Libra Sun, Moon, or Rising, so 10 to 22, 3, Jupiter will help you. Because I know that eclipses are also happening on those degrees, but don't worry, because especially the second part of the year, Jupiter says, no matter what happens, you're protected physically, psychologically. You'd turn it somehow with your higher mind, with divine protection. Jupiter in the ninth house, the situation will be turned for good. So if it's your ascendant in those degrees, definitely higher knowledge, travel, inspiration, and so on. Everything that we talked about, the ninth house is valid for you. If your sun, especially those first 22 degrees, Jupiter will trine you, especially 11 to 22 degrees, you'll benefit because Jupiter will do it 3 times over those degrees. If it's your sun in Libra, your business or career can go really well. You can receive some help from male figures or important male figures in your life can be going through a good period, or you can benefit through that. Your own initiatives and goals will be developing really well. You can expand and grow in different areas. Your health should improve. Your optimism, faith in yourself, opportunities and growth, go for it. If your moon those degrees that Jupiter trines in 2024, it can improve your emotional well-being, hormonal and health state, female hormones for the women. It can improve your relationships with people because the moon rules and with the ascendant. The ascendant also rules relationships. It can improve. It can improve your home, domestic environment. It can give an opportunity, if it's your moon, for property to expand or to find a place that you like, or just the home and family situation, or your emotional, psychological, mental health to improve with Jupiter trine the moon. And of course, with trine, expansion is possible in other levels, not just materially, but physically, the waistline. But it's good, how do I say, very supportive. I actually feel the trines of Jupiter stronger than the actual when Jupiter transits over a planet. I feel it's stronger when it trines in a more beneficial, positive way. So it's almost like your good karma gets unlocked the second part of the year. Your spirituality increases, your faith, your belief in the world, things make sense. Then you have a vision, expansion, study something, travel if you can. The world is mine type of thing is going to feel during that time. Your expansion of the world will increase. You'll see some truths, and you might be really focused on morality and moral truths. You'll be very attuned to what is right and wrong to do. You'll be very attuned on the higher moral ground. Just try not to become preachy. There is a possibility there. When Jupiter transits the 9th house, one becomes preachy a bit, and Jupiter will square Saturn from the 9th house. There might be some obstacles, especially in August the 19th, around that time, a few weeks before, a few after, and then around Christmas, December 24th, Jupiter squares Saturn in your 6th house again. There can be some clashes on ideological beliefs, on ideologies, or some kind of testing of your beliefs and some moral dilemmas that appear around that time of what is right and wrong, or questioning where you're heading to the future, what you're studying, you have to maybe revise it or whatever, or some delays with anything to do with travel, relocation to foreign. But these are periods, they're not all the time, just at moments, Okay, so this is Jupiter that's gonna really help you in the second part of the year. Which did Saturn, Jupiter. Now the other next very important position is the nodes. The nodes are always opposite each other. They're an axis that causes the eclipses. They're not actual planets. In ancient astrology, they know them as shadow planets. They're not actually planets, but actually some say they're invisible discs, and some even have shown videos of actually Rahu in ancient times. They say it's 7 discs, it's not 1, and some people have filmed them, discs hiding the sun. Actually, we don't know. There are a lot of mysteries. It's not actually the shadow of the moon that falls, but it's special discs. Who knows? I'm just putting there some conspiracy theories deeply. But anyway, Rahu is what causes the Rahu and Ketu. I've lost my Ketu. So it's always here in the opposite degree. Ketu is in your sign, guys. It entered in July 2023, and the whole 2024, the south node will be in Libra, while the north node will be in Aries, causing the eclipses there. First of all, what does it mean? And the south node passes your sign once every 19 years, the north, and as well the north node, your 7th house, once every 19 years, only for a year and a half. So it's a rare influence. I think of all those things that we covered now, Jupiter, Saturn, you definitely feel Jupiter very strongly, but the nodes, this is what you'll feel the strongest. And South Node in your sign makes you more spiritual already. Jupiter, when it starts in the ninth house, trining from June onwards, will make you even more spiritual, but in a positive way. Saturn can make you spiritual through more testing ways, by losses sometimes, or by sudden big shifts in life, or by helping you. Basically, the South Node wants you to abandon the ego, because the first house is the self. So something can happen, I cannot tell what specific event will be, that makes your grip on who you think you are, like the roles you play. Oh, I'm a teacher, or I'm a father, or I'm a lover, or I'm a husband, or I'm a investor, whatever, or I'm sick. Everyone has certain roles that they see themselves in. This is the first house. This is your sign. Well, the South Node there can deprive you of this role, of certain role, can tell, well, you're not just that. And that's very spiritual, because you stop identifying with the external things. And you go more within, and you look for who am I truly? And who you are truly is the silent witness. That's the most ultimate experience, spiritual experience, to feel the silent witness. So for people that are more spiritually inclined, the South Node in the first house can be the time when your senses open, the invisible senses, because the ego is weakened during that time. The boundaries between visible and invisible world are weakened. Sometimes the ego can be weakened by weakening the body, by weakening the connection with the material reality, by making you a bit more apathetic towards around the world, a little bit more detached, a little bit more disinterested, like an observer. And that's exactly what, if you start feeling such kind of, especially when the South Node transits your sun, moon, or ascendant, you might be feeling really kind of disconnected from, demotivated from the interests of the world and what's happening around you, kind of a bit ghost-like. That's South Node rules ghost, but kind of like floating or detached or disconnected from, or passive in certain way, because you assume the role of the silent witness. And if you're feeling like that, no, it's normal with the South Node. Usually it's only when the South Node is within 4 or 5 degrees of your ascendant, sun or moon, you can feel this weakening of attachment, weakening of interest towards the external world. Maybe sometimes you might have to let go of something, of certain roles or whatever. But this is very spiritual. It's shedding of skin. The Rahu and the Ketu, South and North Node, they're depicted by a snake. And what do snakes do? They shed their skin. So when the nodes are in your sign, whether it's the North or the South, every 9 years they move either the North or the South Node. So there is some kind of a cyclical 9-year shedding of the skin. And I even, because I'm on this axis as well personally, I'm on the opposite side, I even saw already 3 snake skins in front of me. And I've never even seen a snake here, but 3 snake skins, which is a sign like you're shedding your skin, something is changing in your personality. And it can be very relieving for some of you Libras, that you're released from certain karmic duties and obligations that the South Node, the dragon's tail through your sign, helps you excrete and release certain attachments, certain roles that you no longer needed. What if you identify as someone who is sick? Well, you can divest and excrete or shed that personality, that role that you're playing. And if it's your sun there in Libra, it can weaken the ego. It can weaken and it can be sometimes some father figure that leaves your life, or there is a sacrifice, something that has to happen, or that there is a letting go of father figure or male figure in your life, or certain role that you play, a goal, or you might be completing some long-term goal of yours and dreams, because South Node is not just about endings and releasing, it's about completion. If it's the ascendant, your you can, for example, with the ascendant, you can lose weight because the south node can, even with the sun and the moon, because south node is excretion, becoming less. Sometimes though, you have to be careful that that bone and muscle mass doesn't also decrease. But you can let go of certain behaviors and lifestyle choices, and it's easier for you to sacrifice something that you were before attached to more powerfully, that you thought it was part of you. So it can be very freeing, that you feel lighter with South Node, after South Node in Libra, because you let go of a lot of old baggage that you carry, karmic baggage that you carry. But some might experience it like loss or sacrifice, or putting yourself second, taking a secondary step, and your ego is being pummeled in some way, so you become humble or more egoless. People that are already egoless, that they're not too full of themselves, whatever, they're like angels during that period. They're more spiritualized. Usually they're not losses that appear on the material and the physical health level for them, because the ego is not in the way. Because when the ego is big, the south node really hurts through your sign, because then usually we humble ourselves through some loss, or through some kind of a detachment, depression, like when you're made to feel vulnerable. But if you're already gentle soul with less ego, these are beautiful spiritual periods. My friend, when she had this, her psychic ability started opening. She had astral travel is easier because the south node connects to the invisible worlds. If you're someone who does charity work, who helps others, south node there, it makes you even more charitable, sacrificial. But you can also notice that there is a sense of emptying yourself, and others, you can become very desirable for others, interesting enough, even though you might feel a bit detached, disconnected a little bit from more passive from material world. You'll notice that others become more active, because the north node is in your 7th house, and the north node is the active part of the dragon, the head. So you attract more glamorous people, more prestigious people, people from very different backgrounds that are attracted to you like moths to light, like flies to honey, or whatever it's called. Because you become egoless, you empty yourself more, and others start projecting on you whatever they want, and you become almost like others start. It's interesting process to observe it. You empty yourself, and then others with bigger egos, because Rahu is usually this more overpowering influence, come on, and they take over, and they might be drawn to you, and they might see in you your potential. They might be sexually drawn to you with Rahu in the 7th house. Almost like you become more fairy-like with south node in the 1st house, more ephemeral, where you attract more lusty and exciting people towards you. And ancient astrology says when the south or north node transits the axis of the moon or the ascendant, and I've seen it with the sun, this is when fated relationships happen. So this time is not so much about you, it might be about your relationships, that with where Rahu is, where things are happening. You can meet a life partner. Someone appears in your life it's a fated relationship. It's part of your karmic circle. It's part of your soul family on top. These are not random relationships that are formed when the nodes transits the 1st and the 7th house. Usually when Rahu transits the 7th house, is someone that is from more new karma, new people enter your life. So new people that definitely, it's not necessarily just sexual partners, can be business partners. When Rahu was transiting my 7th house, I did a lot of business partnerships that were very materially successful. Rahu is people that are quite worldly, that they're like a ticket to a ticket for you in some way, to higher places or to bigger opportunities. They might be a bit predatory. I have to warn you, Rahu can have a tendency to be predatory or more material, because they see something in you and so they latch on you, but you will benefit as well. And Yes, there is a danger of temptation, I have to say, when Rahu transits the seventh house. Our ego is weaker, so the ego of others we find them more fascinating. Rahu is the dragon that wants to eat, and it has no body. So it's ravenous, it's insatiable. So people that already have such predispositions, they can become sexually too voracious, for example. They might feel tempted to cheat, or if they're single, they'll definitely have some very important relationship that starts now. But if they're already in a relationships, they might be, because Rahu is this energy, the grass is green on the other side. Rahu wants something new. Rahu wants something exciting, because especially South Node empties you, and you're like, I'm ready to feel myself for more. So that's why you start attracting other people, other experiences that are new for you, and they come to you from others. And that might be fun. They might come to you through friends or whatever, that very new, different people in your life, because you've emptied your ego, so you're ready to feel it again. So again, things come to you from others, but sometimes you have to be careful, because there might be strong infatuation of fascination, especially if you already have a partnership. When Rahu is in the seventh house, someone tempts you or whatever. Usually Rahu in the seventh house already means they can indicate divorce and marriage, or starting of a marriage. If you're in a relationship, it can, make a big change through eclipses day in your status in the relationship. But usually it's because someone new appears, or you're excited to experiment or try someone else. So, or maybe your partner, maybe your partner starts having Rahu energies in them, like they do new things. So if you're in a long-term marriage, for example, my husband said that he feels that our relationship has definitely improved since the North Node entered his seventh house. And he says he puts more focus on the relationship, and he says you become more upbeat, because this is Rahu. Well, South Node, Ketu, which is in your sign, Libra, is a bit more passive. It might be a bit like, not bored, but even this kind of empty and motivated feeling. Rahu is the opposite, excited, so you might notice, and my husband said, I've noticed you become more positive, more excited. So you can notice this through your partners, getting this Rahu energy, becoming more ambitious, more excitable, more sexual as well. Or you can indicate that you meet people that are the more ambitious, and they're your driving force now. Like then, that's when I met someone that I still work with, and that they were more ambitious than me, and they had the vision, and they were like pushing me to try new things. For example, someone like an agent. If you're an actor or someone, you can find a really great worldly agent, or someone that pushes, because your agenda is emptied with the South Node. So it's very hard to promote yourself when the South Node is in the first house, or to push for your own what you want to do. It's more like others can push for you. So find a representative, like a lawyer, if you're trying to represent yourself some way, or like someone who is more worldly, more savvy, street savvy, smart, or someone, if you want to achieve further, that they represent you, they go and make the connections and so on. But definitely Rahu, the North Node in the seventh house, more partnerships, business or personal, that can be beneficial, development of more contacts, the whole 2024. And you see, we're seeing a trend here. Jupiter in the 8th house, which is connected to other people's resources, and again, ask from others and you'll receive. The North Node in the 7th house, which is about building bridges. And North Node is how we grow from, is where we can materially rise up much faster. Again, through others. So there is a theme. Maybe your partner will pull you forward, or maybe you collaborate with people that are driven and more successful, and mutual finances will increase. Or there is some big developments in the life of your partner. Or if you're single, you can meet new people, Rahu, that are excitable, that a different, might be foreign. Or if you're single, definitely you can meet someone Rahuvian. What is that? Someone more driven and ambitious, or someone foreign, or someone who is from a different background than you. Say you're black, they're white, or say you're Christian, they're Muslim, or say you've grown up in this state, they've grown up in South Africa, whatever. So it's a kind of like very new energy, very different. And there is this kind of worldliness about them. They're fascinating, they're unfamiliar, they're different. Because wherever Rahu is, we get fascinated. We can even get addicted a bit to. And it's in the seventh house, other people, partners. You meet someone unusual, and you're driven in that direction. And of course, it can be very successful because Rahu tends to give successes. They are material and external, but it fulfills our desires. And as I said, ancient astrology said, and I've seen it over and over, years when you get married or meet your life partner, the nodes are involved. I mean, they will be transiting your sun sign or your ascendant sign, or the ruler of your seventh house, or the seventh, the sign of the moon, the sign of the sun, the sign of especially the ascendant, or the sign of your Venus, if you happen to have, Venus either in Libra or in Aries, or if you happen to have, one of the personal planets. Well, eclipses cause this. You meet the life partner. If you're single, so there is, great possibility, but also some big other reversals and changes in your personal life, who you are. And I remember when I last had South Node in the first house from my ascendant, it had to become less about me. Suddenly, I had a new role, a mother. And I've always lived for myself in a very selfish way, so I had to shed a lot of my selfishness with the South Node transiting the first house. A new role, but it's a kind of, South Node has you put yourself second, not first, because South Node, it's kind of your needs go second, while the needs of others, seventh house, they take over. So that's what I experienced, but also I attracted really great business partners during that time. Our relationship was developing and it was very exciting. Now my husband has it, and he says our relationship picked up again, which I'm glad. I hope it's not someone else he's picked up a relationship with, but I don't know, Jupiter in the 8th. I know, I'm kidding. We don't talk about such things to make them happen. Okay, but also you might be drawn to someone who is either foreign or who has been married before, or who is married. Rahu, Rahu has a bit of a taboo energy, a bit of a forbidden exotic fruit. I wish for you that it's more exotic fruit because, they're not the normal, typical person, or maybe because they've been married and divorced, not because they are with someone, but sometimes it's a possibility, or someone foreign, or someone who's already been married, or someone who is, and actually, when Rahu is in the seventh house, you can, like a trampoline, jump for you through others, whether it's through marriage, through a partnership that puts you to higher, prestigious, or helps you fulfill some goal of yours. So again, collaborating or others opening doors for you in some way, while you allow yourself to be a little bit more in the background. And I don't think Libras don't naturally, especially Libra sun, people, they don't have a strong ego. The sun in Libra is very much not about themselves. So I think that the South Node, especially for Libra sun people, transit is not going to be so much about losses and so on, but definitely big changes. And actually the big changes happen especially around the eclipses. The first eclipse is on March 25th. You can feel it a month before and then 3 months to 6 months after, because it's a lunar eclipse. It's at 5 degrees Libra. So if you're from 2 degrees Libra, or even 1 already, to around 8, 9 degrees in Libra, you would feel this eclipse very strongly, especially the 5th degree. This eclipse is lunar eclipse. Some big change will be happening for those degrees. New roles in life, shedding of the new directions in life, shedding of one role, next one. Because it's a lunar eclipse, the sun is in your 7th house, the moon is in your 1st house. So you can be completing something, putting something to an end, so you can seeing the results of something you've been working, or some big development in your life, whether it's your sun, moon, or ascendant in those degrees, with the moon more in the personal life, with women in relationships, with the sun more career, or with important males, or in your goals. And all of those are health. You have to be cautious about your health, with the ascendant as well, health, and your direction in life. And relationships will play a big role, something big and important happening. For example, you might meet a fated life partner, take a relationship to the next level within 6 months after the eclipse. Not exactly on the eclipse, within 6 months. I met my husband on an eclipse in Libra, on my Libra planets, 2 days after the eclipse. So this is fated time for some of you. But again, sometimes the roles, some big changes in life. And then the other eclipse, the solar eclipse on April the 8th, it's right at 19 degrees Aries. It's with the North Node in your 7th house. It's a new moon eclipse, which means the sun and the moon are together with the North Node. Some powerful new beginnings in relationships, through others, in the life of your partner. Fated relationships that can happen. But of course, but especially if you're from, say, 15 degrees ascendant in Libra, or moon or rising, till 23 degrees sun, moon or rising. My husband has his rising right at 19 Libra, where the eclipse is. You have to be careful about your health again. Some big developments, changes in life, new chapters in life. And because it's in the 7th house, another person might be involved, or external circumstances. So yeah, big changes. And there's a lunar eclipse on September the 17th. But this time is not in Libra or Aries, is in Pisces, in your 6th house. So that's you're out of the zone of the eclipses on the September 1, the 17th. 6th house, some changes within the next 6 months in regards to career, work. This matters here in the 6th house, health. But Saturn is already working on those things. So, while the other eclipse on October the 2nd is at 10 degrees Libra. It's a new moon eclipse, solar eclipse. 10 degrees Libra. So if you're from 6 degrees Libra to 14 degrees Libra, especially around 9, 10, 11, that's, again, life changer. Whether it's your sun, moon, or ascendant, you have to be careful about your health again, but some big shifts, whether it's in your personal life with the moon, whether it's with career with the sun and direction in life, someone very important leaving, someone very important appearing in your life, but it's some powerful new beginning there. Fated as well, something that your soul wanted, but big changes within a few months. So just remember about the nodes. The ego, the south node is emptying your ego. The north node is bringing opportunity to use from others. Somehow you have to take more into consideration the needs of others, because almost like they're your north node and guiding light now, they can, or sometimes they can tempt you also in the wrong direction. But the moment Jupiter enters Gemini from June, it will start trining the south node in Libra, so it will give you a lot of wisdom and stabilize relationships here, so you don't lose your head too much with North Node, because the North Node, Rahu, is the dragon's head, and the dragon lost his head. So we can get there like infatuated or lose our heads, but the Jupiter there, the moment it starts trining you, puts you in a more wiser state. But definitely somehow others push and others are activating force and partnerships and such kind of things for faster success is through the gates of others, the 7th house. While the south node, you might have to let go of certain aspect of yourself, shed some skin, release something, sacrifice something. For some of you, might be something like cut your hair off, or I don't know. For me, it was definitely sacrificing more for children, learning always it was me first. Well, now it's not me first, and sacrificing for my partner more. I gave priority to my partnership than to my partner than to myself, and so on. But definitely with the North Node in the 7th house, Jupiter in the 8th house, the first 5 months, that can be good. Improved sexual, intimate life for people, or relationships. As I said, 8th house is soulmate, 7th house is definitely with the nodes, they're meeting someone important. So that's a big theme for many of you. Okay. So another important thing, so these three are truly the most important themes. And for you, I especially focus on the south node because it's I truly believe you'll be feeling that energy very strongly. But we have also some other planets like Mercury. Mercury every year goes retrograde 3 times. And this year, it's mostly going to be retrograde starting from April in your social houses, in the 7th, the 11th, the 3rd. So again, we see not only the North Node here is pushing you towards socializing more, to connecting with others where you're going to benefit with, to put yourself second, or let's kind of look for the opinion of others rather than focus on doing things on your own, or just, relying on yourself somehow. But it's year of building bridges and deciding which are the important people in your life. The first retrograde will be probably the one you feel the strongest, because it's exactly opposite Libra. This one is in April, and that's when the eclipses are happening also on the axis of the 1st and 7th house. So this kind of spring, March, April, very, very important for your personal relationships, or for huge directions in your changes in the direction of your life, if it's the sun or moon. And this retrograde starts on the 1st of April and carries on till the 25th of April, which means the whole April Mercury is pretty much retrograde in Aries. The degrees it passes through, they're 15 till 27. So even 14 till 30, I would say you'd feel it. The last 15 degrees in particular of Libra will definitely feel this Mercury retrograde. So what can it mean? Well, there can be some clarifying conversations with partners, some important decisions that you have to discuss in April that you have to revise, some contracts and agreements you have to revise. You might decide to break up some relationships during that time, or some agreement or some contract that you've signed with someone, or some business partnership, if they're not meeting the rules of fairness, and if they're not, if there's no desire for compromise from both sides, they might be reevaluated. Some close relationships, friendships, there might be a small mini crisis in the relationship for a little bit, or it might just mean that you are deciding to set new rules in the relationship, so thinking how can it be better, or how can we change something, or that you're taking some important decision as a couple with someone, that you're deciding we'll do this or that. So very happening time in regards to relationships. Of course, it's not advised to sign documents and contracts which are brand new with another, but maybe with already existing friendships, relationships, to redesign this relationship, to set new rules, to discuss things from the past, to bring up things that were bothering you so they can be addressed. And usually a relationship which is still good and dharmic, after Mercury retrograde in the 7th, becomes even better. But first some issues are addressed, how it can be made better, and they're discussed. On another level, definitely you might become aware of certain unwanted things that you didn't know about, and it might create certain problems in a relationship. You might decide to remove certain people from your life and, distance yourself. But it can be just something as simple as people from the past you haven't seen who enter your life for a little bit, that you get in touch with old friends or acquaintances, or even relationships from the past, or that you go with your partner, do something you used to do before that you haven't done for a while, revisit some old places. It can be something as simple as that and enjoyable, which I wish for you, But of course, it's not only about relationships, the 7th house, Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde, especially those, let's say, 14 to 30 degrees Libras, they can just have mercurial events happen, where it's redoing something, editing, having to retract their words, or to speak about old matters, or having to have to be careful a little bit with computers, devices this April. Possibly don't buy brand new ones, maybe repair and fix old ones. With passwords, with emails, just a bit more cautious during this Mercury retrograde. But again, it's definitely some kind of, there's interactions with others, it's triggered from outside, you're revising and rethinking, or maybe coming back to old clients or coming back to old collaborations. Someone you used to collaborate with, you can decide to do it again, or reconnect with someone from the past. But this is the most potent Mercury retrograde, and it's in a business house. So you can be, usually when Mercury goes retrograde in business houses, like the 1st, the 11th, and the 3rd, which is about social contacts, networking, usually, and your clients, they rule all of those commercial transactions, clients, all those houses that Mercury will be retrograde in the whole 2024 is, you can do a better job at marketing, at reimagining your approach to clients, reimagining to your following, and usually kind of change it a little bit, and you see what's not working and you work extra hard maybe to reach more audience. And after that, by the time Mercury goes direct, your business can be, and your business strategy for attracting clients and dealing with clients, usually it's way more better organized, way more harmonious, balanced, because Mercury has those qualities to do that, to organize, to make more efficient, more savvy. Then the other Mercury retrograde is in August, from the 4th of August till the 28th, pretty much the whole of August. It's happening mostly in your 11th house, another business house. It's not as direct. It's actually much gentler, and especially helping those who are in the last 10 degrees of Libra. It's going to sextile them from 20 to 30. This Mercury retrograde actually helps those Libras. You can reconnect with friends from the past, your network. You can decide to change something in your network or in your business. The 11th house is your followers, and if you have such 11th house is your approach to marketing, advertising, again, to spreading a project or whatever. You might be working on some long-term goal, editing, fixing it, redoing it, or with kind of in some larger group of people that you're revising something, or getting together with people you haven't seen for a while, as I said, with friends, or maybe there might be maybe you reconnect with friends and you go somewhere on holiday. This is great, And then the last Mercury retrograde, but again, you might think you might rethink certain friendships here. That's, sometimes you see things from a different angle when Mercury is retrograde, and you realize that those people are maybe not as good for you, this social circle, and you might trim off some, because Mercury rethinks, analyzes. Maybe remove some 11th houses membership subscriptions that you might cancel or revise, or you might come back to, you haven't watched, say you're subscribed to something, you haven't watched it for a bit, and you come back to it and you watch it, or you can just decide to remove some subscriptions, so membership from groups, whether on Facebook or whatever. What are you following on social, online? This is also 11th house. So you might reorganize there. And then Mercury, and it's for a little bit retrograde in Virgo as well, in your 12th house in August. So that's more like, be careful that information, like he said that, she said that, kind of gossip, broken phone, or talking behind other people's backs, or other people talking behind your back. Sometimes Mercury in the 12th house can do that, but it can make your dream life more vivid in August as well, moments from it. And just 12th house is the house of losing something. Be careful again with technology devices and so on, especially the first part of August, the first 10 days in particular, when Mercury is there. And also traveling abroad, 12th house, you have to be a bit more cautious the first 10 days of August, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Just be a bit more prepared, because there might be some alternative things that you have to be ready for. Then the last Mercury retrograde is from November from November 24th, pretty much from Thanksgiving till the middle of December 15th. And Mercury goes retrograde from 6 till 23 degrees Sagittarius, which means if you're Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising, 6 till 23 degrees, or 24 even in Libra, Mercury is sextiling you, Mercury retrograde. Very good. Again, reconnecting with mates and friends from the past. Again, it's social. Maybe, but for all Libras, third house, Mercury retrograde, working in a small group environment that requires more efforts, more of your intellectual skills, more of your mental, whatever skills you have, revising some knowledge, working on some commercial project or some commercial deal or business, something, brand or product that Mercury retrograde requires you. Maybe, oh, you have to change it a bit. It's not, maybe there is a different way. Maybe it gets delayed for a little bit and you're working with it on a team. So you need to, you see it from an alternative way. Wow, there is a different way to do it, a bit better. So you correct, you fix something. Of course, it can create some frictions in a team environment that you're revising certain friendships again, or you're seeing people you haven't seen from the past again, reconnecting, especially relatives, siblings, who knows, around Thanksgiving time. You can definitely reconnect with such people, but if there is tensions naturally between you and siblings and relatives, with Mercury retrograde, they can sometimes escalate if Mercury is doing hard aspects from there. So if you have planets in Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius or Gemini in those degrees 6 to 23, there can be some frictions with neighbors or frictions with teammates or frictions with relatives. Otherwise, it's more like seeing such people you haven't seen, reminiscing about the past, doing some activities with them you haven't done for a while. Third house is again electronic devices, communication, social media, your social media accounts, your passwords. You have to be a bit more cautious about those things. Maybe set stronger security. You might kind of displace a password, kind of. I hope it's not, unless if you don't have planets in Sagittarius, Pisces, Gemini, and Virgo in those degrees, it's not going to be anything stressful with passwords, with emails, and so on. If you have, though, there might be some stressful developments there that, I don't know, I hope not hacked, but some devices problems, getting into accounts, communicating with others, having some problems, or even problems with your car and transportations. And what transport you use, having to rethink it, use something else for a little bit. Okay, and maybe some important conversations might be had around that time to discuss things or business meetings. And so oftentimes schedules are off a bit during Mercury retrograde in those social houses. You arrange to meet then on Zoom or on Skype or in real life. Tough luck. Just know that those period, November 24th to December 15th, it might not be. You agree for something, but something else comes up. And doesn't have to be. It can be a bit frustrating, but it's honestly, I oftentimes, especially if you're doing some mental work, which is Mercury, working, on editing, fixing something, I always, like in ancient astrology, they say retrograde planets is 3 times more difficult because it requires you to put 3 times more effort into something, redo it a few times and so on, because it's twice as close to the Earth when it's retrograde. Its energy is more powerful. But the result after that, which you'll see it from the second part of December, is 3 times more potent and long-lasting. So you have this opportunity to really take a deep thought and to reconnect with people from the past this year. Not only that, but to rethink who you want to be part of your social media, what you watch, what you read, to really rethink what you put in your head, the third house, who you communicate with, who your friends are, reconnect with some of them past one, or who your clients are, who your followers are, to rethink that strategy and maybe make it even better. Because Mercury is a great organizer. Mercury is very smart and bright, so you're going to have the smarts how to reach people in a better way. Maybe redo your website, maybe redo your strategy, marketing strategy, maybe how you communicate and connect with people. Maybe you change your way of talking with people and connecting with them, and maybe you realize that there's some people that are more important for you than others, and you give priority to them. Because I told you, this year you succeed through others, and Mercury helps you especially become aware who are the right people for you, but in all spheres of life, whether it's relatives, whether it's personal partnerships or business one, whether it's the wider circle of friends. This is where you're more active with this Mercury, and you can make some very important, intelligent changes there. And then the last is at the end of the year, Mars will go retrograde. Mars goes retrograde in Cancer and partly in Leo. For you Libras, the Cancer retrograde will be the one that you feel stronger. Actually, Mars enters in Cancer from already September, October, so the themes can start from then. It starts around October 2024, finishes around May 2025. It's a long period when Mars will be just here for 7 months in that sphere. And one of the spheres, especially if you're Libra, who is born the last 15 degrees, Mars goes retrograde from 17 to 30 degrees in Libra. So they will feel it the strongest. In Cancer, but so it means from 15, I give it from 15 because there is an orb. So the last 15 degrees in Libra, 15 to 30 degrees in Libra, they'll have the square of Saturn. From the 10th house on Libra, they have to be a bit more cautious with their health. Thankfully, Jupiter is trining those degrees. No, Jupiter is not trining all of those degrees. Jupiter is trining just up to 22 degrees. So those up to from 15 to 22 degrees, Jupiter will protect them because it's trining around those degrees. But I think all Libras, Jupiter is looking at their sign. Despite of the square from Mars, there's possibility of more, like if it's your sun, moon, or ascendant, of accidents, hurts, burns, cuts, inflammation of the body, acute illness that comes, or, it's like Mars, anything Mars is like, that's acute and kind of hot in nature, or accident in some way, or temperature is just, especially when Mars suspects the exact degree of your sun, moon, or ascendant, if it's the last 15, 16 degrees. You have to check it. I cannot tell you day by day what degree Mars will be, but especially Mars affects those degrees first in October. Then Mars moves in December. In November, in December, it will be in Leo. So it's not going to affect you. It will work here on friendships, reconnecting with people from the past, maybe working on some long-term goal or dream of yours that you're putting extra efforts. Then it goes retrograde on December the 6th in the Leo, and the whole December it's there. And you're probably kind of even rethinking some friendships. You might have some, altercations with friends, or maybe needing to help friends in some situation, or rethinking some, again, we see here marketing strategy or social media use and interactions. But you're putting some extra efforts. Retrograde planet requires 3 times more efforts in some long-term goal or dream of yours that you're working. And then Mars goes from 2025. This is when you're going to feel it intense. And that's already prediction for another year, so I don't think I should include it here, but I would just give you the heads up to know that this process starts in October. Very likely some new career possibility or some new career developments, or with authority figures or institutions that you have to put a lot of energy into. And someone else might be involved because Mars rules your 7th house, but definitely there's maybe more ambition that you'll be putting, or a lot more focus into your career, but you'll see this into 2025. Because Mars mostly will be there in January, February, March, and a bit into April, So January, February, March, and April, Mars is in this area in Cancer, and it's going to basically just finish this whole thing in May. So the first months of 2025, we'll talk about it next time, but you'll be dealing with something very important to do with your career, with authorities, with rethinking the direction of your career. But that can be stressful because it means Mars, if it's your ascendant, is definitely career. From the 10th house, some work project that you're putting a lot of extra focus and so on, or rethinking the direction of your career. But usually, if it's the sun or moon in those last from 16, 17 degrees till 30 in Libra, Mars will square it. So for the ascendant, it can create problems also with relationships because it's squaring the axis of relationship with the moon as well. It can make you more emotionally angry, let's say, and there can be some stressful situations or changes in your family, or something you're fighting there for, or something that you're putting lots of energy, like building a house, redoing something. So it can be quite good as well. If it's your sun, it can be with your career, with your goals, that there is some kind of changes and vexation, or with important males in your life. And of course, health always with Mars, it has to be a bit more careful. One is more susceptible to inflammatory conditions. And with the sun, there might be some redoing of career matters as well from the 10th house, of course. But you'll see this more towards 2025, but it starts the trends of this 10th house Mars. That's some important developments there. Maybe you're required to work more, to put more efforts, because Mars is your energy. Where does it go? For many months, it will stay around this 10th house to do something. And Mars is fantastic in the 10th house, even though it squares your sign from there. Yes, it's stressful. It puts pressure on health, and but you become way more ambitious. And I think you need it, especially with the South Node all the time in your sign, it's kind of almost triggered through another person because Mars rules the 7th house. I remember when Mars was retrograde in my 10th house, I divorced. There was a lot of other stuff going, but my social status changed. And all the time I kept meeting police, stopping me. I was dealing with authority figures, martial figures, and so on. But there might be also some conflict with the father figure, parental figure, because it's in the sign of Cancer, a family that you're dealing with around that time. Again, it's life. These things happen. They have to be addressed. Mars wants to fix a problem, to make it better, but also Mars in the 10th house. I became very ambitious. I was working every single day during the whole 7 months of Mars retrograde in my 10th house. Pregnant already, that would not miss. Makes you ambitious, makes you focus on your work, makes you like a soldier. So you can get some great stuff as well. And I was changing some things in my business as well. So, there is not only just stresses with bosses and fights with authority figures and father figures, which are also possible, but there is some very positive ways you can channel it towards, because it gives this drive to success and so on. All right, so these are all the retrograde planets. Now we have to look at specific degrees with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Uranus has been in your 7th house, but it's not making any direct aspect to you, Libras. So but very soon from 2025-6, Uranus will start supporting Libras. I can't wait, all the air signs, because I'll tell you later, but it's going to be great because the big players will be supporting you powerfully. All the big players. But for now, Uranus, no specific degrees, because it does not make, this does not make aspect. Taurus does not make aspect to Libra. So Uranus leaves you, it's in this 8th house, and we spoke a lot about it with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, but no specific degrees. Okay, maybe 22, 23, 25, 6, 7, but again, this is not considered, it's a non-aspect in ancient astrology. So in modern astrology, they call everything aspect. Quincunx, minxunx, no. Ancient people said that's not an aspect. They don't see each other. Neptune as well. Neptune is where Saturn is. No aspect, quincunx. So Neptune is not affecting any specific degrees of Libra. Some modern astrologers will tell you, it's a quincunx aspect, 145 or 35. It's not an aspect, the ancient said. So Neptune has left you alone. Yes, Neptune is working in your 7th house till 2025, in your 6th house. And then we said, with the Saturn there, Neptune has been dissolving the boundaries when it comes to health routines, but Saturn is now trying to put you in order. So Uranus and Neptune out of the picture. Pluto, though, is in the picture. Pluto has been in your 4th house for so many years, since 2008. And now it's moving back on the 20th of January again for the second time. It was only for 2 months in your 5th house. In 2023, most of you didn't probably feel it at all because it was just at the 0 degree there in the 5th house. But Pluto is entering on the 20th of August, your 5th house, and it will stay there most of the day, to dip out of there just for a little bit in September and October, and come back to your 4th house, September, October, and in November it comes back again to your 5th house. So Pluto will make a square only to the last, from Capricorn, to the last 1 degree. So if you're 29 degree Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising, that's just the 1 degree, maybe even 28 degree can feel it. The square of Saturn, you already have felt it. You already 2020, 2022, 2023, this aspect started. 2022 in 3 in particular, Pluto has been squaring your Sun, Moon, or Ascendant. This is big churning of your psychology. Deep Pluto is like a detoxing of the system, but it's to burn off the toxicity. You might think you're going crazy with some compulsions, with some extreme feelings, with some kind of extreme developments in life, sudden reversals and crises. But it's transformational. It can feel a bit dark when Pluto squares your Sun, Moon, or Ascendant at those last 1 degree only. It can feel like a sense of dread, like fear. It can make you feel vulnerable, take your power away. But ultimately, when this transit is finishing, which it is finishing by the end of 2024, and it will not come back there, I think, anymore after that, you are like brand new after that. You feel, so from 2025, most likely for you, those last 1 degrees, you'd feel empowered, you'll take your power back. Those things that scared you a lot will not scare you, but they might have this sense of, Pluto is survival, like you're having to survive, whether through anxiety, through worries. Nowadays, we're not chased by tigers or predators most often, which is what Pluto indicates normally. Nowadays, anxiety is what's chasing us and is the predator. So sometimes, and this anxiety is not just random. Actually, it's bringing to the surface all the traumas, and they might be triggered from small things that would normally not make you anxious now. But believe me, it is because Pluto is burning off the traumas and bringing them to the surface, not from this lifetime only, but from many lifetimes, complexes, traumas, and it feels like anxiety. It feels like you're surviving. So, and of course, check your health if you're this last degree of Libra. That's when my health problems started with the diaphragm but now I've just passed over this transit. Honestly, I feel so much happy, and I'm so happy it happened. And I'm humbled and I'm transformed. And usually if it's your Sun, you might be transforming your career or relationship with men or fear of authority. If it's the Moon, your personal relationships, emotional, family, personal life, big transformations, or something with the mother, or your own emotional fears. That is very psychological, Pluto's transit. But it changes you like nothing, and it empowers you. First, it takes your power away, and then it empowers you. From the 4th house is very much connected with family karma, with family ancestry, definitely. And with the Ascendant, it can create some power struggles in relationships as well, the 1st 7th house axis. But just for that last degree of Libra. But then the other Libras that will feel Pluto will feel it by trine. This is the first 2 degrees of Libra. 0, 1, 2, even 3 degrees. So up to only the first 3 degrees of Libra will get, in most of 2024, the trine of Pluto. Now that's another bird than the square. Now that's empowering. Now if it's your Sun in those first 3 degrees of Libra, what can I tell you? You can fulfill 2024, 25, some incredible goal of yours. I've even seen Pluto trine to planets. People become very rich, people get very empowered, stronger, overcome diseases, heal, transform, but it's not in a disruptive way that first takes your power. And that feels like a bit dreadful and anxious, like the square. The square also does the same, but the square does it in less, you know, in a more cathartic way, let's say. The trine in a more empowering way. And anything Plutonian that you do will be great success for you, whether it's your sun, moon, or ascendant. Astrology, the occult, Pluto rules all of those things. Cleansing, detoxes, surgeries will go well if it's Pluto is trining you. Anything to do with transformation of appearance, of body, deep healing of the body, great strength. Pluto gives you 9 lives normally, like the cats. Rebirth, transformation, emotional maturity, emotional strength if it's your moon in those first 3 degrees of Libra. Emotional empowerment, very emotionally penetrating relationships, that is, and it's Pluto is from the 5th house. So very deep romantic life, it can happen for some of you. And actually for all Libras, Pluto entering your 5th house of being in love. It can be obsessive love, or it can bring some powerful, especially the first few degrees, they'll feel it more. Powerful romantic developments, falling in love, pregnancies as well, incredible creative impulse, Pluto in the 5th house. 5th house is your creativity, self-expression. Ultimately, Pluto will be in your 5th house for 19 years, Libras. So it's going to transform your romantic relationships like never before, but in a way that should empower you. And that is deep, that is intense, that is not about superficial relationships romantically. That sex is not just for pleasure, but it's for deep connection. And a child might transform your life. Some development with child, that is very important, Pluto in the 5th house. Or you might become, as Libras, over the next 19 years, the creative force, the creative force for whole of society because of this Pluto in the 5th house. 5th house rules to start your own business, speculative investment. Some of you might become, in the coming years, the first few degrees now especially will feel it this year, with speculative investments, with startups, with creating their own business, something that transforms their life, or something that it's their own idea. So there you go, guys. This is Pluto for you, and this is 2024 for you, Libras. As you said, I think the most important thing to remember is the eclipses in your sign. The degrees that the eclipses are happening on are very important, but South Node in your 1st house, North Node in your 7th house. Follow the line of the North-South Node. Connect to others, bind with others, and you'll definitely feel very strongly Jupiter in your 9th house when it starts aspecting you as well. And this Mars, but that's more towards 2025. So thank you so much, and may you have a blessed year.